The first time the predator pup locked eyes with Elias Turner, it pissed on the floor. Elias was crouched in the corner of the Terran Hyrran Intercultural Habitat dome, wiping down a bench with a rag that smelled like vinegar and space mold. When the thing was brought in, a handler in a thick padded suit struggled against the strength of a creature barely the size of a small dog. Its fur was jet black, bristled in the wrong direction, and its teeth, too many for comfort, clicked against each other as it growled. The growl turned into a whimper when it was shoved into the clear containment enclosure. A puddle appeared beneath it. "Great first impression," Elias muttered, tossing the rag into the sanitation chute. He stood up slowly, brushing his palms on his pants. A pair of Hyrran students were already at the viewing window, their elongated necks stretching forward, twin clusters of eye stalks twitching with obvious discomfort. One of them, the taller one, Eshro, pointed a trembling digit toward the pup. "That is a juvenile Dravak, is it not?" Eshro's voice trembled. "Yeah," Elias said, stepping next to them. "They're trying to see if it can be domesticated. Teach it not to bite everything with a pulse." The second student, Vetra, made a chittering noise that Elias had learned meant anxiety. "You cannot tame a Dravak. It is a nightmare species. It eats its siblings in the nest." Elias watched the pup loll its tongue out and sneeze. "So do some fish back on Earth. Doesn't mean we don't keep aquariums. You are not seriously suggesting you will keep that thing?" Eshro recoiled half a step. Elias shrugged. "Not me. But I'll help monitor the trial." "That's what I'm here for." The Dravak pup, as if understanding it was the subject of discussion, sat abruptly and stared at Elias. Eshro took another step back. 3 days later, it was following Elias around like a lost sock. The initial acclimation was rocky. The creature named Muzzle ironically bit through 2 feeding gloves and chewed the leg off a cleaning bot. But it also responded to Elias's voice faster than it did to any of the trainers. It sat when Elias told it to, lay down with only a little hesitation, and even tolerated a leash after some coaxing with protein cubes. "Don't get too close," Elias warned the students as Muzzle padded next to him down the corridor housing xenobiology laboratories, still learning not to jump on people. "He is not walking beside you," Vetra said, eyes tracking the pup. "He is stalking you." Elias chuckled. "That's how dogs look too sometimes. Doesn't mean anything." "He is not a dog," Eshro muttered. Elias didn't argue. He knew that, but he couldn't help noticing the similarities. Muzzle whined when left alone, wagged something vaguely tail-like when he was happy, and even barked short, warbley things that made the Hyrran students flinch. By the end of the second week, the dome staff had stopped trying to keep Muzzle in the containment enclosure. Every time they locked him in, he'd find a way out, chewing through composite mesh, clawing through wall insulation, or once simply waiting for a distracted tech to enter before bolting. Elias found him sleeping on his cot twice. After that, he gave up and let the pup stay near. It was when Muzzle started growling at other staff members that things shifted. Elias was working with a sample tray when the creature bristled and snarled at a passing botanist who got too close. The Hyrran students were watching from a safe corner, and Eshro let out a shrill tone nearly at the edge of Elias's hearing range. "He is choosing you," Eshro said. "You are now his pack. That is not good." "I mean, isn't that the point?" Elias asked, gently pushing Muzzle's head down. "Domestication and all? No. He will protect his pack. But he will not understand the difference between threat and friend. He will attack others. Then we teach him," Elias said. "That is not how Dravak learn," Eshro said. "They learn by conquest." The next day, Muzzle bit someone. It wasn't lethal, thankfully. Just a deep puncture wound in the forearm of a tech who'd been reaching for a sample case too quickly. Muzzle lunged, teeth flashing, and Elias had to drag the creature off, using all his strength. The tech, a woman named Kara, was rushed to the mebe. Elias stayed behind, arms shaking, heart pounding. Muzzle didn't fight him. Instead, the creature sat down, ears if that's what they were, flattened against its skull. "What the hell was that?" Elias whispered. "You can't do that, buddy. That's not okay." Muzzle made a low, keening sound and nudged Elias's knee. The Hyrran students visited Kara in the mebe, bringing her a nutrient broth that smelled like pickled rubber. She was in good spirits, but her arm was in a pressurized sling, and she winced when Elias entered. "I didn't even see it coming," she said. "One second I'm reaching, next second I'm bleeding." Elias rubbed his forehead. "I'm sorry. Not your fault," Kara said. "But you might want to reconsider this whole domestication project." The program director did not reconsider. Instead, they assigned Muzzle to mandatory response conditioning under Elias's supervision, which meant Elias had to wear a padded sleeve and let Muzzle attack him on command, and only on command. The first session tore a ligament in Elias's shoulder. The second left bruises along his ribs. By the fifth session, Muzzle hesitated before lunging. That was progress. The Hyrran students watched from a safe vantage behind a reinforced glass barrier. Eshro leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "I do not understand," he said. "Why do you continue?" "Because he's learning," Elias said through gritted teeth, clutching his shoulder. "He injured you." "Yeah, well, so did my uncle's Rottweiler when I was 12. Still taught it to play dead." "This is not a Terran beast," Vetra said. "He will not roll over. He will not fetch." Muzzle, as if insulted, barked once and flopped onto his back. "Silence." Elias grinned. "Huh. Guess he does roll over." The fear didn't go away. Some of the alien students began filing formal complaints. A few refused to share corridors with Elias when Muzzle was nearby. Others started carrying stun emitters. One even stopped attending classes entirely, citing unacceptable threat level exposure. The administration called Elias in. "We're seeing increased tension," Director Haven said, folding her hands. Her skin was translucent blue and her face was unreadable. "We cannot have students too afraid to walk the halls." "He's under control," Elias said. "He hasn't snapped since the incident with Kara." "And if he does again?" Elias didn't answer. The next week, the Hyrran students had a field exercise scheduled in the simulation biome. Elias was assigned to assist with monitoring. He asked if Muzzle could accompany him. The director hesitated, then agreed on the condition that the creature remained leashed and muzzled. The simulation was a forest environment dense with synthetic trees and terrain. The Hyrran students were to collect biosamples while navigating through a map path. Elias stayed behind them, Muzzle at his side. Everything went fine until a mechanical drone used for pathfinding malfunctioned and dropped from the canopy. It landed near Vetra, whirring and sparking. Vetra screamed. Muzzle bolted. The leash was torn from Elias's grip and the creature lunged toward the drone, jaws clamping down just as the device sparked again. In seconds, it was reduced to shredded metal. Several students had collapsed in terror, but Muzzle didn't attack them. He circled once, then returned to Elias and sat, tail swishing. Elias stared at the wreckage. "He saved her," he said. "No," Eshro said shakily from behind a tree. "He destroyed something loud and fast. Next time, it might be me who moves too quickly." Elias looked down at Muzzle. The creature looked up, tongue lolling. He didn't know who was right. But that night, Muzzle curled around Elias's legs, twitching in his sleep like a dreaming dog. And Elias wondered if it had been a mistake to teach a predator how to love. Muzzle was awake before Elias, pacing in tight circles just outside the cot, claws tapping against the polymer flooring. The creature's breath came in quiet puffs, fogging the lower part of the observation panel. He kept glancing toward the storage alcove near the door where Elias usually kept his boots. Elias groaned as he sat up, one arm stiff from the lingering effects of the training injury. He rubbed his shoulder absently while fumbling for the boots. "You know you're not supposed to go running until I've had caffeine, right?" he muttered. Muzzle didn't respond. Of course he didn't. But he sat, tail twitching, watching the boots with such intense anticipation that Elias almost laughed. Almost. The simulation incident hadn't gone unnoticed. Word spread fast across the dome's internal channels. Someone had captured footage of Muzzle tearing through the drone, and it had been slowed down, annotated, and passed around like a horror clip. View counts were approaching 5,000 the last Elias checked. Elias tightened the laces and stood. "All right. Let's get it over with." They took the maintenance route around the western biodome to avoid foot traffic. The path was designed for utility bots and smelled faintly of ozone and rust. Muzzle stayed close. occasionally glancing up as if to verify Elias was still walking. The quiet was broken by the sudden whir of an overhead warning light. A sanitation drone trundled into view, its brushes spinning lazily. Muzzle tensed. "Don't," Elias said, without slowing. The creature lowered his head, ears or the ridged approximation of them flattening. But he didn't move. The drone passed. Elias exhaled. Progress. At the entrance to the primary hydroponics lab, a Hyrran technician stood blocking their way. Her torso was draped in a silver uniform sleeveless to accommodate her numerous upper limbs. She didn't move aside. "You are not permitted to bring that animal into nutrient zones," she said. Elias adjusted the strap digging into his shoulder. "He's not going in. Just passing through to get to the exterior corridor. You deviate from the approved human transit path. Because the approved one is currently flooded due to a pipe fracture. Unless you want me wading through fertilizer runoff, this is the better option." The technician's eyes, 8 of them in twin vertical rows, narrowed. "If he contaminates the root systems, our entire growth cycle may be compromised. He won't step off the walkway." Reluctantly, she stepped aside. Muzzle kept his gaze low, his body language unreadable to anyone unfamiliar. Elias noticed the slight tension in the creature's hind limbs and knew he was holding himself back. Once they passed through the lab, Elias knelt and pulled a small container from his pack. He popped it open and offered a dried meat stick. Muzzle sniffed, took it gently, and chewed once before swallowing whole. "Not everything's a test. Sometimes it's just a treat." By midday, Elias was back in the diagnostics bay. His shoulder had started burning again, not the sharp stab of a tear, but the deep, pulsing ache that came from overuse and not enough rest. He sat on the edge of the med chair and pulled his sleeve up, revealing the bruised tissue beneath. A human medic named Farah approached with a scanner. "You didn't follow the icing schedule." "I was busy." "You always say that." She ran the scanner along his deltoid, eyes flicking to the display. "You've got fluid buildup around the joint." "I can drain it, but you're gonna hate me." Elias shrugged with the good shoulder. "Do it now before I lose my nerve." Farah retrieved a sterile syringe and a gauze pad. "You want to look away?" "I want to pretend I'm somewhere else entirely." The needle slid in with a dull pressure. Elias gritted his teeth. Muzzle, lying curled near the wall, let out a low whine. Farah glanced over. "He always does that when I poke you?" "Only when he thinks I'm in pain." "Creepy." "Comforting," Elias corrected. "You're outnumbered in that opinion." The fluid drained slowly. Farah capped the syringe and tossed it into the disposal unit. "You need at least 2 days without strain. No tugging, no lifting, no letting the thing drag you through another training circuit." "Noted." "I'm serious." "I know you are." Muzzle rose as Elias stood. The pup sniffed the air, then nudged at Elias's hip. Farah watched them for a few seconds. "You realize if he snapped, they'd blame you whether or not it was your fault?" "I know." "Then why are you still doing this?" Elias pulled his jacket back on carefully. "Because if he doesn't learn with me, he won't get another teacher. They'll just put him down." Farah didn't ask anything else. Later that evening, Elias sat on the edge of the training field with a portable interface pad, tracking Muzzle's heartbeat remotely. The creature was running figure eights through a timed obstacle course, each lap slightly faster than the last. A few Hyrran students clustered near the far wall, whispering in a dialect Elias didn't speak. Their eyes never left the creature. One of them, a short, pale-limbed one named Orek, approached. "Is it true you let it sleep beside you?" Elias kept his eyes on the pad. "He chooses where to sleep. I don't stop him. That is reckless. He's never hurt me." "Not yet." Elias set the pad down. "Do you have dogs where you're from?" Orek's body stiffened. "We do not domesticate wild things. We eliminate them." "Then maybe this isn't something you'll understand." "Perhaps not. But others are concerned. You should know that." "I do." Orek left without another word. Muzzle finished the lap and trotted up, sides heaving, tongue lolling. Elias gave him water from a collapsible bowl and rubbed behind his ear ridge. "Tomorrow we try the scent drill." Muzzle licked his wrist. Back in his quarters, Elias reviewed footage from the day's session. Muzzle had hesitated twice during the high-pitched sound pulses, possibly reacting to frequencies the sensors missed. He flagged the data for analysis. Outside, the dome's artificial dusk settled in. The light dimmed to a soft amber, mimicking sunset. Elias leaned back in his chair, letting the glow wash over his face. His shoulder throbbed. Muzzle stirred on the floor, then padded over and rested his head on Elias's knee. From the adjacent corridor, a faint chime echoed, someone requesting entry. He tapped the console. The door slid open, revealing Vetra, her posture twitchy. "I'm not here to argue," she said quickly. Could I observe him up close?" Elias raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that? I need to understand." Avoidance hasn't helped. He nodded and stepped aside. Muzzle stood but didn't move. He stared at her, unblinking. Vetra stepped in cautiously, hands visible and empty. Her breathing hitched. "Is he reading me?" "Probably." She crouched slowly, still a meter away. Muzzle tilted his head. "I've seen the recordings. But watching isn't the same." "No, it's not. I didn't expect him to be so. Still, he has moods. Right now he's curious." Vetra reached into her satchel and withdrew a small object, a dried leaf encased in resin. She placed it gently on the floor and backed away. Muzzle sniffed it, then nudged it once before settling back down. Vetra let out a breath. "Thank you." Elias nodded, unsure what else to say. As she left, she paused at the door. "If he ever turns, I will not hesitate." "I wouldn't expect you to." The door closed. Elias looked at Muzzle, who was now chewing the edge of a floor mat. "Could have warned me you liked leaves," he said. Muzzle sneezed. The night passed without incident. By morning, Elias's shoulder was tighter and he had to brace against the wall to get dressed. He delayed reporting to the lab, instead activating a mobility assist wrap that hummed softly as it stabilized the joint. Muzzle watched, head tilted. Yeah, I'm falling apart. Don't look so smug." They left the quarters together. Outside, several students were gathered near the central atrium, clustered around a display screen. Elias caught sight of a headline. "Dravak bonded human displaying unstable behavior. Safety concerns mount." He recognized the picture. It was from the training session where Muzzle had lunged at the drone. He was in the background, mid-command, face twisted mid-yell. It looked like he was screaming. Muzzle leaned against his leg. Elias turned and walked the other way. He didn't need to see the rest of the article. The incident report had been quietly buried, but the dome's atmosphere hadn't recovered. Muzzle's presence was tolerated now only because the administration hadn't found a more politically acceptable alternative. And Elias, well, he was no longer just the human with the predator. He was the anomaly, the stubborn outlier, the one who kept insisting there was a future in something most had already decided was a dead end. By the third week, the xenopsychology department had requested a live demonstration. Not of aggression, those were too easy, but of restraint. Elias stood in the center of the behavioral chamber, a stripped-down environment designed to isolate stimuli. Nothing but pale walls, a grated floor, and a mirrored panel behind which the observing committee had gathered. Muzzle sat beside him, posture alert but calm. A door hissed open across the chamber. From it emerged what looked like a floating orb studded with retractable limbs and glowing nodes. It moved erratically, emitting sudden bursts of sound and light. A mimic assault drone designed to provoke reflexive responses. Elias didn't speak. He'd been told not to. This was Muzzle's test. The drone zipped forward. Muzzle's ears twitched, but he didn't move. It changed color, emitted a piercing screech, and darted toward Elias's knee. In a blink, Muzzle lunged not at the drone, but in front of Elias, planting himself between them with a low growl. He didn't bite, didn't swipe, just stood there, rock solid, a shield of muscle and fur. The drone backed off. A few seconds passed. Then a chime sounded, signaling the end of the trial. Elias crouched, resting a hand lightly on Muzzle's back. "You did good, buddy." The mirrored panel slid open. 4 Hyrran faculty members stepped in, followed by 2 dome administrators and a single human observer from Earth's diplomatic corps. Their expressions were unreadable. Elias stayed where he was. The tallest Hyrran among them, a silver-skinned male with a pronounced spinal crest, moved forward. He did not attack, he said. That is significant. He assessed a threat and chose a non-lethal response, Elias said. That's more than instinct. That's learned behavior. Another stepped forward, this one with a violet hue and smaller stature. How can you be sure this is replicable? That it is not a fluke. Because he's done it before, just not under formal observation. And if next time he does not choose restraint, then it'll be on me, Elias said. As it always has been. They withdrew after that, murmuring amongst themselves. The human observer lingered. You're not making this easy on us, she said. I'm not trying to. You realize if he had reacted poorly, you'd be on the first shuttle back to Earth. Or worse. I know. She studied Muzzle for a moment. You're lucky he's so ugly. No one expects ugly things to be noble. Muzzle yawned wide enough to show every tooth in his skull. The following morning, Elias woke to a strange silence. Muzzle wasn't in the room. The cot was cold where he usually curled. Elias sat up, immediately alert. He checked the quarters. Nothing. The corridor outside? Empty. His stomach twisted. He ran a trace through the terminal. Muzzle's location was listed as active, but the signal had been rerouted. Someone had moved him without authorization. Elias didn't wait for permission. He bolted down the corridor, shoulder aching with every stride, turning corners too fast, nearly colliding with a supply cart. The signal led to the medical observation wing. Inside, he found Muzzle sedated behind a containment shield. His breathing was shallow, limbs twitching slightly. 2 Hyrran technicians stood nearby, speaking in low tones. What the hell did you do? Elias snapped. One of them turned. He is unharmed. We administered a standard neural scan. Without me. We were advised you might bias the results. Elias stepped forward. Who authorized this? Director Hyrran. The name hit like a slap. He turned on his heel and stormed down the hall. He found Hyrran in the administrative suite mid-meeting with a cluster of alien envoys. She raised an eyebrow as he entered. You sedated him without informing me? Hyrran remained seated. He is not your property, Mr. Turner. He's not yours either. No, but he is under our jurisdiction. Elias tightened his jaw. He's bonded. You know what that means. Yes. It means his behavior is influenced by your presence. That complicates our data collection. He's not a test subject. He's a living creature who's learned to trust us. You've just undone that. Haven't folded her hands. We will consider your input. Dismissed. He didn't move. One of the envoys, an insectoid species Elias didn't know, clicked its mandibles. Your persistence is inefficient. Elias's voice was low. You don't get to talk about efficiency when you've never tried to teach something that doesn't want to be taught. Hyrran's expression didn't change. You're suspended from field duty for 48 hours. Use the time to rest. You look unwell. He left without replying. Back in his quarters, Elias sat at the edge of the cot, staring at the floor until his vision blurred. His shoulder throbbed again. The pain was different this time, deeper, more insistent. He activated the emergency medlink. Within minutes, Farah arrived. You finally called, she said. That bad? He nodded. She helped him remove the jacket, then the sling. She palpated the joint gently, watching his face. You've got inflammation pressing against the nerve sheath. No wonder you're losing sleep. Can you fix it? I can inject a corticosteroid, but if you don't stop using the arm, it'll flare again. Possibly worse. Do it. She did. The relief was immediate but not total. Just enough to breathe again. You're burning out, she said. I don't have the luxury not to. You think if you stop pushing, they'll scrap him? I know they will. The next day, Elias returned to the observation wing. Muzzle was awake, pacing slowly. His eyes were glassy, and he didn't approach when Elias entered. Elias crouched near the barrier. It wasn't me. I didn't let them do it. Muzzle blinked, then sat. His tail didn't move. Elias stayed for hours, saying nothing. Eventually, Muzzle lay down, head resting between his paws. That evening, Eshro found him in the cafeteria. "You are being watched," he said, sliding a tray beside Elias's. "I figured. Some believe he will regress. Let them. I'm not here for their approval." Eshro adjusted his translator band. "You changed him. That should not have been possible." "I didn't change him. I gave him a reason to change." "Is that not the same?" Elias shook his head. "No. One is control. The other is choice." Eshro considered that. "We do not learn this way. Maybe that's why we keep misunderstanding each other." 2 days later, the administration held a final review session. The committee assembled again, this time in the central forum. Muzzle was present, leashed but unrestrained. Each department gave its findings. The xenobiologists described physiological changes from domestication stress. The linguists noted rudimentary comprehension of vocal cues. The behavioral analysts detailed response patterns and inhibition development. Then they turned to Elias. He stood, shoulder wrapped tightly, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. "I didn't come here to prove anything," he said. "I came to help. What I've seen, what I've lived isn't perfect. But it's possible. He's not safe because he's been broken. He's safe because he's been seen." The room was quiet. "Haven't stood. The program is concluded. The Dravak will not be terminated, nor will he be used for further aggression trials." Elias exhaled. "Haven't turned to him. You will remain as his handler until further notice. Your medical clearance is contingent on compliance with recovery protocol." He nodded. Muzzle leaned gently against his leg. Later, Eshro approached him near the arboretum. "Some of us still fear him," he admitted. "That's okay. Do you?" Elias looked down at the creature beside him. "Sometimes. But fear doesn't mean you give up. It means you're paying attention." Eshro hesitated. Then he extended a hand toward Muzzle. The pup sniffed it once, then licked it. Eshro recoiled slightly. "Is that a taste or a greeting?" "Could be both. I will accept it either way." They walked the corridor together, one human, one alien, and a predator pup who had stopped trying to prove anything to anyone. For once, that was enough.